21st century cosmopolitan Malaysia, a land of variety and contrast. This nation of nearly 30 million is a richly woven tapestry of cultures and races. For centuries, people from faraway lands came to these shores by sea.
There would be traders from the Middle East or Arab countries, India, China. Even on occasion, Europeans showed up.
The history of Malaysia reveals how a diversity of people came to settle here, bringing their own customs and traditions, each contributing to its cultural landscape.
And they also brought in important aspects of their cuisine.
The cuisine of Malaysia tells the story of the country's colorful past and the heritage Malaysians share.
I strongly believe you can tell Malaysian culture and history through its food.
From centuries-old Malay favorites
Nasi lemak ni memang turun-temurun daripada nenek moyang.
to Chinese-inspired street food. Journey into the very heart and soul of this country, a melting pot of many influences.
Fusion is not 20th century. Fusion took place in the 13th and 14th century.
Culinary Malaysia, a mouth-watering celebration of this multicultural nation.
Malaysian food has shaped what we are today. It has the influence of all the historical things that have happened, all the traders that have come in, everyone that has come in and crossed our paths has influenced us in Malaysia.
Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. This is the cosmopolitan heart of this nation. A sprawling modern metropolis. At the start of each day, many Malaysians observe a breakfast ritual with a 600-year-old Malay favorite. Rice steamed in coconut milk, topped with a dash of sambal or chili puree, some cucumber, egg, and fried ikan bilis, a local variety of anchovy. Wrapped in a banana leaf, nasi lemak is a Malay staple, and while it today has several variations, the basic dish has remained largely unchanged for centuries.
I think it is simplicity in itself. 3 ingredients. You have the main carbohydrate, you have the protein, and then you have the vegetable.
Malaysian cuisine expert Carol Salvaraja has been a food writer and celebrity chef for over 30 years.
If there may be an authentic Malaysian cuisine, I consider it as nasi lemak, and it has been available from the 15th century because we've heard of writers talking about this lovely dish.
The simplicity of nasi lemak, particularly its rice and fish combination, belies its prominence in the history of Malay cuisine.
The core diet of an early Malay community would have been rice and fish. Rice would have been brought in through trade. For example, in the Great Malacca Kingdom, there were tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of tons of rice brought in every year from Java. Combine that with fish, that made up the basic diet.
The popularity of fish amongst Malaysians continues today. It is estimated that they put away some 2 million tons of it each year. Peninsular Malaysia is flanked on either side by seas rich with marine life. Much of the country's supply of fish comes from the waters off its western coast, an approximately 800-kilometer channel called the Straits of Malacca.
Straits of Malacca played a very important role in this because it is very shallow, it has a high oxygen content, so it was a very important breeding ground for fish and other sea life.
The Straits of Malacca not only sustained early settlers, but its strategic location also made it a thoroughfare for trade, putting Malaysia at an important crossroads.
It acts as a funnel for trade between South Asia or India and East Asia, particularly China. And so if you want to move between China or Japan and India, you basically have to go through the Straits of Malacca. There would be traders from the Middle East or Arab countries, India, Japan, the Philippines, China.
Trading wasn't the only activity along the Straits of Malacca. The abundant seas saw fishing communities thrive along the coast. These days, Pangkor Island along the northern reaches of the Straits is still home to a fishing industry. Pangkor is best known for ikan bilis, but a wide variety of other marine species are also caught here. Many of the island's 25,000 inhabitants depend on the fishing industry for a living. 22-year-old Nazri, or Captain E, is the youngest fishing boat captain on the island. He's followed in the footsteps of his father.
Semalam you tangkap berapa? Ada?
Malam ada juga sikit kan.
Sikit ah? Oh, kalau itu macam kena rajin sikit lah.
Each day, boats head out to sea from Pangkor's jetties at precisely 3 p.m. It's a competitive business. Everyone is intent on finding the best fishing spots. But overfishing is forcing boats to venture further out than before. Life at sea may look tranquil, but it is hard, back-breaking work.
Kadang-kadang pun sampai 2 hari, 3 hari kita biasa kan, tidur sat-sat lah pun kan. Dah biasa kerja kan, kerja dah ni tekong kena jadi macam tu. Dia tak susah pasal ikan pun dia tak tidur. Siang malam dia tak tidur kan.
Captain E is doing the same thing generations before him did. It's a legacy that stretches back to the earliest known fishermen in these parts, the orang laut.
The orang laut, or sea peoples, basically dominate the ocean. They have knowledge of rare products in the ocean. They have knowledge of the shoals, the currents, the shallows, and therefore they're able to move over water, or particularly the Straits of Malacca area, with ease.
Fishermen like Captain E rely more on technology than the intimate knowledge of the sea their predecessors possessed.
Ada nampak kau lawan ni. Ni ikan bumi kita. Ni ikan ni. Kalau ikan lalu kot bawah bot kita, ada nampak sini.
Despite the high-tech gadgets available, Captain E and his crew still turn to a more traditional method to drive fish into their nets. They make noise. It takes far less time to deploy the nets than to reel them in. This must be done with care to avoid snagging the nets and losing the catch. How big that catch will be is anyone's guess. The sea, it appears, is smiling upon them tonight, and they pull in a sizable catch. This time they've landed a school of mackerel, a fish popular with Malaysian seafood lovers.
Sebab tambah tadi lagi pun ikan pun liar kan. Lagi pun ayak pun ada pusing-pusing, ayak pukat jadi kemek kan. Yang ni pasal pukat pun cantik. Ikan pun banyak jinak sikit kan. Tu boleh kena banyak oh.
By daybreak, Captain E's crew would have hauled in nearly 4,000 kilograms of fish. They head back to shore with the ship's hold near capacity. Tonight's catch includes ikan bilis that will eventually end up in kitchens across Malaysia. At Chef Zainal's in Kuala Lumpur, deep-fried ikan bilis is but one choice of ingredients for nasi lemak. Modern-day versions of the dish see items like fish cake, shrimp, and fried chicken wings being used as well. But they're all interpretations of the traditional recipe, served in nostalgic settings.
Saya nak customer saya selesa waktu makan dengan irama 50-an, awal 60-an dan tengok gambar-gambar tu seolah-olah dia akan kembali ke masa yang lampau waktu dia anak-anak tu kan.
That walk down memory lane at Chef Zainal's ultimately leads to good old-fashioned nasi lemak.
Prinsip saya bagi nasi lemak ni senang, simple je. Kita kekalkan yang lama, tradisi kita tu kekalkan. Resepi dia kita maintain, dengan itu kita boleh berjaya kalau kita buat perniagaan. Nasi lemak ni memang turun-temurun kan, daripada nenek moyang dan merupakan resipi ibunda kita.
The nostalgic ambience here is perhaps an apt setting for Malaysians to savor a culinary favorite from the past. One that is as popular today as it was in the 15th century. In the far north of Peninsular Malaysia, along the Straits of Malacca, lies a Chinese heartland, Penang. Over time, waves of immigrants from China came and settled here, bringing with them their own traditions and culture, and of course, their cuisine, helping turn Penang into a street food paradise. The variety of food here is as staggering as it is mouth-watering.
Malaysia, Penang ni minyak kau je lah.
This is al fresco dining Malaysian style. And one of the stars here is a noodle dish called char kway teow.
Char kway teow is the flat rice noodles tossed with bean sprouts, with cockles, with chili, with garlic. It may be a dish we're eating in the roadside mainly or cooking at home. But it is very important because all of us long for that char kway teow.
The Penang Food Festival is a celebration of its street fair. Food takes center stage, with chefs' creations scrutinized by experts. The Best Char Kway Teow Award is up for grabs. In true Malaysian form, this Chinese dish is enjoyed by non-Chinese as well.
I love char kway teow. The taste, the color, the ingredients. Voila.
Char kway teow is a national dish in my opinion because, you know, a lot of people wake up and the first thing they want to have is char kway teow.
At the Battle of the Chefs, judges look for flair and presentation, and taste, of course, to decide on the best char kway teow.
The highest points, ladies and gentlemen, for our Penang Char Kway Teow goes to Muhammad Faisal bin Zainal Abidin, also winning a bronze medal today.
Early morning in downtown Penang. The markets are already bustling. Char kway teow cook Mr. Lien and his wife are doing their daily marketing. And as any chef knows, the right ingredients make all the difference.
这种粿条有分开2、3种，它的粿条的柔软不一样。如果炒的啊，我们比较厚；如果煮的呢，我们是比较薄。这个虾新鲜的虾，可是它的价钱来说啊，也是不便宜。这个一个鸡肉来说也是要它16块。 如果要便宜的话，他们这边就有，他们比较小只了啊，所以它的虾肉也是差。
Lien is the second generation of his family to make a living selling this Penang favorite.
我9岁已经帮我父亲盘粿条。我的父亲从小他就跟他的父母亲从中国福州那边来到马来西亚。 那时候他的年份应该是1938年，所以传到现在，轮到我们已经是算是第3代在马来西亚。
For hundreds of years, the Chinese had come to the peninsula seeking opportunity. But these numbers swelled after the arrival of the British East India Company in 1786.
When the British established Penang, or founded Penang, based on an agreement with the Sultan of Kedah, one of their main goals was to have a free trade port in this region.
Penang became a major trading port and commercial center, and like a beacon, it attracted even more Chinese than before.
While there were Chinese in the Malay Peninsula prior to the colonial era, they played a very important role in the societies and in trade. The amount, the volume, the numbers of migrants that came during the colonial era simply dwarfs that of those who came before.
Most came as traders, coolies, or laborers, bringing with them their way of life. Many of those early immigrants made this new land their home. Lien has done well for himself selling char kway teow. It's a competitive business, but Lien has mastered the tricks of the trade, from picking the right ingredients to wok temperature to frying technique.
炒粿条谁都会炒，可是炒粿条要讲究经验，火候全部要打融在一起。所以有时那个火啊不够大，我们要开风扇。 打它火，给它直接吹起来，所以你的粿条和它炒了才够味道。
The char kway teow is hawker food, it's street food, and it's fast and furious. That wok has to be exactly really hot, the flame has to be really high, and it has a very, very high turnover. It probably tells us a little bit more about the Chinese who came. The Chinese were very, very efficient, and they were astute businessmen, they were entrepreneurs, and they were effective as traders as well. This dish has become very much an icon for a lot of the Chinese. The Chinese have come to Malaysia with loads of business skills and done well.
炒粿条在槟城实在是很普遍，不多不少，在槟城几百档那个炒粿条都有。每一代华人他们都在研究它的炒法，研究到现在，全槟城的粿条水准都全部都提升。
But even before Penang, the Chinese already had a significant presence on the peninsula, in a mighty kingdom that reigned 200 years earlier, called Malacca.
Malacca was a very important trade port because it was one in which a variety of international groups came to live there and visit, particularly in the 15th century. It's generally accepted that some 100,000 people lived there in the 15th century, which would have made it one of the largest cities in the world.
Traders from China came and settled at the thriving port city of Malacca in the 15th century. Over time, intermarriage between Chinese men and local Malay women would give birth to a unique hybrid culture, Peranakan. The Peranakan way of life was a blend of Chinese, Malay, and sometimes Western influences.
The Peranakans, also sometimes known as Nonyas and Babas, were a group of residents of the Strait settlements who had lived there prior to colonial rule. They generally descended from Chinese migrants who married local women, but they kept marrying into Chinese migrants to maintain the culture. And so a lot of the culture focused around the women because they were the stable line that stretched back through generations.
One of the greatest contributions Peranakans have made is to Malaysia's cuisine.
Ada ikan terubuk. Terubuk tak ada nyari ya. Anak. Anak. Mana boleh cucu?
Marsha Tan and her daughter Lynette are 4th and 5th generation Peranakans. Peranakans have their own lingo, a blend of Malay and a Chinese dialect.
Bau tak wangi tak? Wangi. Mana boleh busuk? Wangi sekali.
Today they are shopping for their restaurant in downtown Malacca. In the kitchen, in true Peranakan matriarchal form, Marsha is showing Lynette the ropes.
Bila dusua ketuk ni, berkeluar, lu ingat dia punya ni semua jangan masuk dalam. Lu jangan masuk dalam, nanti orang makan kena tercekik orang ni.
The nutty, slightly bitter-tasting buah keluak is the seed of a tree found in Indonesia and parts of Malaysia. It is poisonous and can only be sold after being properly treated. Buah keluak dishes may not be easy to prepare, but they're still a favorite amongst many Peranakans.
The preparation, the long hours of boiling, and the chances they take to eat the buah keluak with the ayam buah keluak recipe shows you that these people are careful, they are exciting, they are willing to take chances.
Nah, coba. Best in the world.
Mau ingat.
Tonight, the Tans are entertaining family and friends. The convivial atmosphere is typical of Peranakan gatherings, as is the spread of perennial favorites. This spread offers a range of tastes, from spicy to sour to sweet, a reflection of the colorful fusion heritage of the Peranakans.
They are feisty, they are adventurous people, and they love life, and they love their food more than anything else. This is what the Baba and Nonyas live for.
The Peranakans have made a lasting impression on many aspects of Malaysian life, from architecture to fashion. A lively chapter in the story of the nation's cuisine. Friday prayers in Malaysia. Muslims make up more than half the population here. It is the last day of Ramadan, a month of fasting observed the world over. markets across Malaysia, families are preparing for the customary end of Ramadan feast. This celebration is called Aidil Fitri, a culmination of the month-long fast that symbolizes patience, austerity, and faith.
Tapi sure memang ada ayam kan? Tak apalah, saya bagi dia pezit. Saya nak lima ekor. Lagi sekali.
RM25.50 saja. Tak betul lagi.
Apa pasal?
Ini baru boleh. RM125.50. Terima kasih. Esok jumpa lagi.
Okey, jemput datang rumah hari raya.
Bye.
Okey.
For Puan Sabaria and her sister, the day has only just begun. Preparing a feast like this for family and guests is quite a responsibility.
Jadi kita sebagai keluarga yang tua, bila meriah kita mesti buat persiapan kan. Kalau kita tak buat persiapan, diorang nak meriah apa? Tak ada apa pun nak makan kan. Jadi kita terpaksa berkorban dirilah.
The Aidil Fitri feast will feature their most beloved dishes. And leading the lineup, the all-time favorite, beef rendang. Tender cuts of meat cooked in thick, spicy gravy.
Rendang is to the Malays what Turkey is to Christmas. And the Malays, mainly Muslims, serve this wonderful dish at Aidil Fitri, which is the end of fasting month, where everyone celebrates.
At Puan Sabaria's, preparing the Aidil Fitri feast is a family affair. There are about 10 dishes on this year's menu, so everyone pitches in.
Yang nama rendang mesti ada. Memang orang Melayu kalau hari raya memang ada rendang.
The beef is cut into small chunks and left to absorb the flavors of an aromatic mix of herbs, spices and fiery chili known as rempah.
Rempah dia bawang, putih, halia, lengkuas, serai, tumbar, jintan semua kita blend semua, kita tumis dia dulu. Nak pindahkan ni, pindah sana, piuk tu tahu sini.
Ada lagi malam.
The rendang is very much a family dish because everyone has to come together. It's the extended family coming together. And from that you can see that the Malay culture and tradition is very family-oriented. And the rendang is part of this tradition, and everyone has a little say, so everyone has their job to do.
The rendang is cooked slowly over several hours to reduce the gravy to a thick consistency. It is left to simmer as other dishes are prepared. It is at gatherings like this that age-old Malay traditions, including family recipes, are passed on to the next generation.
I believe children should be involved in cooking and should know how important the knowledge of cooking is to them, because it will make them carry on with them the culture, the cuisine to the future and teach their children.
Celebrity Chef Sam is the host of Ole Ole Chef Sam, a half-hour TV program that showcases his culinary skills.
5, 3, 2, go.
Jadi hari ni kita nak masak, kalau anda perhatikan, Lily tengok, what is this?
Daging.
Daging, ni dia daging lembu. Jadi tak sah kalau ada nasi minyak.
Today he's taping an episode teaching kids how to cook beef rendang.
Tapi pedas ni tau. Lily, can you take spicy food? Cannot? Why cannot? You're Malaysian. In Malaysia, food is so important, so significant, and because of that, we celebrity chefs are riding on the popularity, on the importance of food to Malaysian, and it's smelling wonderful.
Back at Puan Sabaria's, the rendang is coming along, slowly. It can take 7 to 8 hours before it's ready to be served. Well worth the wait for a dish that's long been a popular offering on the Malaysian menu.
While we think in Malaysia that the rendang is in Malaysian, truly Malaysian, it has origins in Indonesia. There have been writings and there have been recipes, ancient recipes of rendang made in Sumatra. The traditions of our rendang come from some of their recipes, but we skew towards a more creamier, richer flavor of rendang with more onions and more coconutty aromas and flavors.
It is said that the original recipe for rendang comes from an ethnic group in Indonesia called the Minangkabau. Over time, their influence extended across the Straits of Malacca to Malaysia. But there is yet another foreign flavor in rendang as we know it today, one that came from thousands of miles away.
To break down rendang even further, let's look at the influences. Indian influences of cumin and fennel have always been in Indian curries, as well as coriander. These were the ingredients for the rendang.
Bearing spices and other commodities, Indians arrived in this region overland and via the Straits of Malacca.
Indians came here prior to the colonial era in search of trade opportunities, mainly. Many of them were merchants. And the ships coming from various ports in India, they would bring in cloth from India. For example, cloth was very important. But they also brought in important aspects of their cuisine.
In the culinary melting pot of Malaysia, some of these Indian spices would end up giving local dishes an aromatic flavor. It is the morning of Aidilfitri, the culmination of Ramadan, a month of fasting, austerity, and sacrifice. In Muslim homes, younger family members ask for forgiveness from older folk. Then, a prayer of gratitude before the feast. It took many hands, many hours to prepare, with a dash of rich history for flavor. With many influences, the Aidilfitri feast has become a familiar Malaysian experience, a testament to the diversity of this melting pot.
Hey, bye-bye.
The serene outskirts of Seramban town, south of the nation's capital. A world removed from the din of the city. Mornings here in the midst of nature are quiet, except for Mr. Segaran.
Singkira! Mani avudala? Singkira! Sola kala vela. Eri, motor po. Po.
Segaran and his men head out to a nearby jungle to harvest something that is an important feature of the typical South Indian meal.
I'm a wholesale supplier of banana leaf to the Indian restaurants. Approximately we need 80 to 90 bundles a day. When you go to restaurant, you sit and eat like this. Rice, and you can put 7 vegetables there. Chicken, mutton, everything, but you won't run away. Your wish.
Segaran is a 4th generation Malaysian Indian. For hundreds of years, it was mostly migrant Indians who worked the many plantations that sprung up all over the peninsula.
Indians have also been present in the Straits of Malacca area for many centuries. However, during the colonial era, they came in far larger numbers. And part of the reasoning for that was it was related to the British or the colonial economy. They were brought in to work on rubber plantations. They were brought in to work in the civil service for the British, particularly in these Straits settlement ports of Singapore, Malacca, and Penang.
These Indian migrants brought with them the tastes, flavors, and customs of home, much of which became part of the local cuisine. In aptly named banana leaf restaurants across the country, Malaysians of all races let their hands to the eating of banana leaves.
A banana leaf that is biodegradable, it is antibacterial, and if it's dipped in water, it is malleable, it is soft, it can be folded. And strangely enough, this idea of banana leaves must have come from India because the Indians always use banana leaves as plates.
But there's more to Indian food than just the banana leaf meal. Another popular dish in Malaysia featuring fish is an exotic fusion of Indian and Chinese influences. This is a popular market for fresh seafood in Kuala Lumpur. And this is Kadam, head chef at an Indian restaurant. He's very particular about choosing just the right fish for his house specialty.
You must have the size of 1 kilo. This is the best to cook, the tender. And you must have the fresh, shining, not very dull. Your gill must be very red color.
Chef Kadam came to Malaysia a little over a decade ago. He uses his five-star hotel experience to prepare an unusual dish, one that features a part of the fish that is usually tossed in the bin.
I see this. Locally, they're selling a lot fish head curry here in stall and other restaurant. So I developed. Definitely, is what I cooking, and here it's a little bit different. So I make according here what the Malaysian taste, they like it. There to ina fish head vachita clean panne boil pannittu podum.
Fish head itself is not Indian. The people in India do not eat fish head. The influence was mainly Chinese. The Chinese brought the lovely influences of fish head because the Chinese have always lived close to the edge. You were never quite sure about where you're going at feast or famine. So the heads was always priced.
Iron பண்ணிட்டு அவர் கொடுங்க ரெஸ்டாரன்ட்ல. சரியா? Okay sir.
Fish head curry is a fine example of Southeast Asian culinary fusion that is today enjoyed throughout the region.
The fact that the Indians were astute enough to bring their fish curries and to make it a wonderful fish head curry made it a very interesting exercise because, of course, fish was plentiful in Malaysia and becomes a very exotic dish that the Malaysians enjoy today.
At passage to India, Chef Kadam's version of this iconic dish is one of the most popular offerings on the menu.
This is fish head curry. It's very popular in India. Try this today. This is fantastic.
A taste of culinary Malaysia in a unique dish that is today tantalizing the taste buds of locals and foreigners alike. Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia's capital. The varied architecture here hints at the different cultures that have shaped it. Much of the country today is the result of immigration and colonization. And for this Malaysian, the British legacy is still very much a part of his daily life. He works at the Colosseum Cafe, a quaint, nearly 90-year-old restaurant. The Colosseum is a nostalgic nod to the days of the British Empire. These days, however, its clientele are Malaysians of all races. Head waiter Morgan is the third generation of his family to work at the Colosseum Cafe. Even after more than 35 years, he still gets a kick serving the cafe's signature dish, the sizzling steak.
We want to see the steak is really cooked and put in the hot plate. When we put a sauce, make the thing smoke very heavy. So the customers are very shaky and say, oh my God, oh my God.
The Western food served here has a distinctly Malaysian twist.
The recipe for the sizzling steak, that nobody can copycat from us, which we did from since 1921 till now, the same taste as what customer likes it.
Many of the items on its menu may not have changed, but the clientele today is quite different.
The people who frequented the Colosseum Cafe would have been British civil servants and their wives and their families. It was a place where people could congregate and eat food that they were used to. Some of the Malaysians would also go there. It was also fashionable to be seen with the orang putih, the white man, and it was one step ahead in the social ladder.
The Colosseum Cafe was established by a Malaysian-Chinese businessman in 1921 to cater to the palates of the colonial masters of the time. But the chefs were Hainanese Chinese, as they are today.
The kitchens were run by Hainanese cooks. These were a group of people who came from southern China, coming in search of food because at that time there were lots of jobs in Malaysia and Singapore. And they learned very fast because they were good cooks themselves.
Head waiter Morgan is himself living proof of the Malaysian melting pot.
Okay. When the first time I came for the interview, my boss gave me 6 weeks. You must learn your Hainanese if you know you're out of this place. So whatever it is, whatever they talk, whatever, first thing I learn all the bad words first, back to the good words later. Okay, come on, come樣㗎啦，今日似頭部瓜瓜重我咯，我哋嘅照租碗都冇放啊，鹽冇放，我袋布又冇碗，係咪咁樣做嘅？有冇人袋碗布同埋碗要租碗冇鹽，同我每日冇放，似頭部瓜瓜重我煮，我哋諗住我又冇做工嘅，你人做靈啲㗎嘛。
The Colosseum Cafe experience is truly Malaysian. A Chinese-speaking Indian serving Western food prepared by Hainanese chefs to a multi-ethnic clientele. Malaysia is not merely defined by its multiracial society. It is how these diverse races have blended and borrowed from each other that makes it unique.
I strongly believe you can tell Malaysian culture and history through its food, because if you look at all these years, you will have some sort of influence from other races. The Malays would incorporate some Chinese ingredients into their cooking. The Indians would incorporate some Malay ingredients into their cooking, and so on.
Malaysian food has shaped what we are today. It has the influence of all the historical things that have happened, all the traders that have come in, everyone that has come in and crossed our paths has influenced us in Malaysia. It crosses borders, it has memories.
A true fusion of ideas and cultures. Malaysian cuisine is undeniably a heritage all Malaysians share. A colourful story of migrants, ancient traders, colonial masters, and the seas that brought them to these verdant shores.